Hello and welcome to Pockenrop. In this short video I am going to do my ranking of the 9 albums by Led Zeppelin. That's their 8 studio albums plus their literal coda to their career. Before I go in and rank these albums, I would remind you to subscribe if you've not already done so, to click the thumbs up to like the video and the bell to receive notifications of future content, and maybe share the video with someone else who might like it. So let's start. 9 albums and one of the most revered canons in rock music history. At number 9, I have placed the only album on this list that I don't own in some way, shape or form. It's Coda. In fact, it wasn't until 2 or 3 months ago that I actually listened to Coda for the first time, and I was actually rather surprised with it. I thought side 2 was definitely better than side 1. I thoroughly enjoyed a track that I really didn't expect, which was Bonzo's Montreux. I thought it was a really engaging listen, considering it's all percussive, but it's really well done. I enjoyed Wearing and Tearing, Ozone Baby and Darlene, and I'm keeping an eye out for a copy of Coda. At number 8, I have placed Presence. So this is my least favourite of the studio albums. It's the one that I find hardest to get into. It only gets above Coda purely because it is at least a cohesive artistic statement, all recorded around about the same time. If it were not for Achilles' Last Stand and Nobody's Fault But Mine, then it would be below Coda, because I don't particularly care for T for one, or Royal Orleans. And the rest of it is kind of forgettable. It's why it's at number 8. At number 7, I watched a video recently of someone else ranking their Led Zeppelin albums, and I was surprised to see this end up 1 or 2, because I don't think it merits it, and it's Led Zepp 1, the debut album. Came out in 1969. The tracks Dazed and Confused, Communication Breakdown, Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, and Good Times, Bad Times are all on remasters. And apart from maybe Your Time Is Gonna Come and Black Mountainside, the rest of the album doesn't grip me. I don't own it on vinyl. It's the only Led Zepp studio album, formal studio album, that I don't own on vinyl. But I am going to keep an eye out for it. Because I might be wrong, it might be better than I'm giving it credit for, but I have placed it at number 7. At number 6, I placed In Through the Outdoor. Now, this album often ends up down the bottom of the studio album rankings list. I've even seen it end up behind Coda, and I thoroughly disagree. I find a lot to like on In Through the Outdoor. I enjoy Carousel Alhambra. I enjoy Southbound Soirees. I adore All of My Love, the tribute song to Robert Plant's late son, Carac. And I really enjoy In the Evening. I think had Led Zeppelin not disbanded and John Bonham died, I think this album would have been viewed differently, because it would have been part of their progression rather than their final statement. As a final statement, I agree it doesn't quite work as one of the loudest and heaviest bands in history. But had it been a transition album towards the 80s, it would have ended up being viewed very differently, because people would be able to then hang their hat on what they did afterwards as a result of doing this album. It's true, Jimmy Page is hardly involved in this album compared to the previous. But I like In Through the Outdoor, and I'm placing it at number 6. At number 5, Led Zepp 3. So for me, while there are great tracks on here like Gallows Pole and Friends and Celebration Day and the phenomenally good Immigrant Song, it always feels like a disjointed record. I like everything on it, but I don't immediately recall to mind everything on it. And its highs, with the exception of Immigrant Song, aren't high enough that I would put it into the top 4 Led Zepp records. But I do like Led Zepp 3 a whole deal, and it's my number 5. And number 4, Houses of the Holy. So again, my introduction to Led Zeppelin was the remasters double CD. There are 4 tracks. Half of the album makes it onto remasters. So Rain Song, The Song Remains the Same, No Quarter, and Jamaica. But I also enjoy things like Over the Hills and Far Away and Dancing Days. Let's just say the album that came directly before this was a really difficult album to follow up. And Houses of the Holy is a really good attempt at doing that. It could have been better. But at the moment, Houses of the Holy is at number 4. And the reason it could have been better is because at number 3, I placed Physical Graffiti. And one of the reasons Physical Graffiti is higher than Houses of the Holy is because of the song Houses of the Holy, which did not make it onto its parent-titled album. Houses of the Holy is one of my top 10, definitely amongst my top 10, if not my top 5 Led Zeppelin songs. I think it is brilliant. And I've made the point before that I do think Physical Graffiti is a little bit bloated and overblown at times. But yes, Custard Pie, Rover, they're good. 10 Years Gone I think is phenomenal. But it's side 2 of the record that really cements its legendary status as an album. So that's Trampled Underfoot and Houses of the Holy and Kashmir. And those 3 songs have elevated the album to its lofty status in how people view Led Zeppelin's material. Which is not to say that the rest of the album isn't great. Some of it is. Some of it I do think, however, is a little bit bloated. Physical Graffiti, my number 3. And number 2, this album would have been number 7 6 months ago. But my most recent listens through all my vinyl collection, including all of these Led Zepp albums, saw it totally change in the way that I viewed it. Led Zeppelin 2. The reason it was down at number 7 originally is I do not care for the Lemon Song. However, this is a 9-track album and I deeply care for Whole Lot of Love, What Is and Never Should Be, Thank You, Living Loving Maid, Bring It On Home, Ramble On, Heartbreaker, and Moby Dick. And Moby Dick, it's the drum solo song. And yet the instrumentation that's around that drum solo, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I'm not saying I would want to have listened to a 15-minute version of Moby Dick that they used to do live, and as a result I've never bothered with Song Remains the Same live album. But Led Zepp 2 is for me streets ahead of its debut, Led Zepp 1, and almost their best album. Because at number 1, Untitled, 8-track record, and I genuinely think all 8 tracks are perfect. I really do. Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Misty Mountain Hop, Stairway to Heaven, The Battle of Evermore, 4 Sticks, Going to California, and then finally the power of When the Levee Breaks. There's nothing out of place on Led Zepp 4, Untitled, Zoso, whatever you call it. It is in my top 20 albums of all time, I think. And they didn't better this, but their entire career led up to it. And it's also such a diverse album. You have got a rock and roll song, you have got a hard metal sounding song like Black Dog, you have got an epic poem song, 2-3 of them. You've got a gentle acoustic number like Going to California. Led Zepp 4, genuinely a perfect record. My number one. So that concludes my ranking of Led Zepp's 9 albums. Let me know in comments below what you think about it. Where would you rank the albums? What's your favourite Led Zeppelin album? At some point in the future, I will be doing a Tracks of My Years. I tend to try and do album rankings before I do Tracks of My Years, because then otherwise it gives a whole load of stuff away later on. I'll be back soon with another video. I'll just remind you to subscribe, like, hit the bell, share the video. Thanks for watching.